Did you know that not every young football player who is insanely gifted goes on to make a success out of football? Niall Ranger came into the scene as one of England's most talented players. But several years after getting his first shot at professional football, the 32-year-old is without a club. Niall is perhaps not the only 32-year-old player you know that is currently jobless. But unlike the others who are probably out of form or injured, he is jobless because crime took control of his football career. He went from playing for a big Premier League team to getting in and out of prison. But how did this happen? Niall Ranger is famous as the most arrested sportsman in England. You probably don't like him for this, but he didn't set out to be like this either. The sad reality is, one could almost say he was born into a life of crime. Niall doesn't remember having a life before he got chased out of school for getting into fights with students and for disrespecting teachers. Now, kids do not get sent out of school for misbehaving once. So for Niall Ranger to have been kicked out, he must have repeatedly committed a series of offences. Early years. Niall's father was never in the picture, so he grew up without a father figure. In the absence of a father in his life, he was mostly influenced by friends. Unfortunately, his friends led him in the wrong direction. With no form of good influence in his life, Niall's mother felt the church could change him. This made her take him to church regularly, but he just couldn't pick up the right manners. Before the age of 10, Niall was already deep in crime and could have gone on to become a hardened criminal. However, football saved him. He got involved with some clubs in his locality and made it into the Crystal Palace Football Academy, where he played alongside Wilfried Zaha. Joining Crystal Palace was supposed to be Niall's ticket from a life of crime. However, he wasn't quite ready to stop being harmful. Although he excelled at football, his behaviour got worse at school. He stole phones from other students and sold them to his gang members. So after about 2 years at the Crystal Palace Academy, he was expelled. Niall was slowly building a reputation for getting kicked out of organisations. Not long after the Crystal Palace released him, he burnt a student with a Bunsen burner at school. The school kicked him out for this. There was no real life for Niall at this point if he was going to depend on education. He knew this, so he focused on football, but he continued mixing with the wrong folks. Life after Crystal Palace. Niall graduated from being a troublesome kid to becoming a robber. The police arrested him and tried to keep him caged with an electronic tag. Well, he was smart and succeeded in getting out of this tag. Back to being a free man, Niall kept playing football. He became a student at the highly rated football academy run by former Nigerian international Danny Shida. This academy kicked him out after he stole everyone's phones. At this point, Niall was out of football and was perhaps a full-time robber. He was just 15, but was known for robbing people with a knife. Due to his undeniable talent, Niall found himself playing for Southampton. This was a big deal, and the club couldn't wait for him to go pro, but he wasn't ready for this. He had gotten into trouble before joining Southampton and had to go into prison. He was in prison for just 2 months before he got out. He behaved well. Once out of prison, Niall went back to Southampton. This time, the deal was better. The club gave him a flat, and his mum joined him to ensure he behaved well. Well, Niall could stop stealing. He was done with stealing phones. So he stole some kits from the club and gave them to his friends. He was proud of himself, but this action ended his time with Southampton. Niall Ranger's big break. Back to the streets and the life of crime he so loved. Niall went on with his life like the best he could do was rob people, but it appeared the universe loved him more than he loved himself, as his phone kept ringing non-stop. Plenty of teams were keen on taking advantage of his talent, and some didn't even care if he was going to sell their stadium. After being kicked out of Southampton, Niall Ranger got his big break, but it's sad how he did not value his new success. Well, it wasn't so strange, as he didn't work hard for it. Well, don't be like Niall, who didn't value what life gave him freely. Kindly like and share this video. Also, subscribe to this channel if you're new here. Niall was about to seal a deal that could see him earn £300 weekly. You see, for a kid that only made money from robbing people, this was such a good deal. Fortunately, before this deal was signed, the Magpies came calling, and he couldn't say no. Well, no one at this level would have been able to. Newcastle was far from Niall's home, and this could have been a problem, but he didn't let it influence his decision. At Newcastle, he played for the under-18s and the reserve team team where he scored some nice goals. He kept improving and got an invite to play with the big boys, and for the first time in his life, he was standing next to Michael Owen in training. Playing for Newcastle was great, but Niall's life was about to get better. He got a call to play for the Three Lions under-19 side in March 2009. While with the under-19 team, he scored a couple of goals. However, he was the most remembered for punching a teammate. Well, the fact is he impressed everyone, and soon he got a 3-year deal with Newcastle. This deal was worth £10,000 a week. Niall had become rich, and he splashed money on expensive stuff. He even went as far as buying a new Range Rover. Of course, he could have done better with his money, but he felt like he would make a lot more. Sadly, the money Newcastle paid him weekly was going to be the highest he would earn, as his football career soon nosedived. There was no doubt how talented Niall was, but he was just too indisciplined. He made a habit of coming late to training, keeping late nights, and gambling with huge amounts of money throughout his free time. Niall couldn't stop getting on the wrong side of the law. It was as though it was in his DNA to do so. Newcastle was patient, but soon they had had enough and sent him on loan. Well, due to his talent level, he got another chance, and this time he tried better. However, he just couldn't help himself. He became a regular at nightclubs, and soon got involved in a rape case. This was as much as Newcastle could take, so they ended his contract, and once again he was back on the street. Life after Newcastle and last set of contracts. Niall had already been in the big leagues for a while, so he didn't go all the way down. No club was interested in getting associated with him, but Swindon Town decided to work with him. He got paid £4,000 a week. At this point, one would be tempted to think he had learnt his lesson, but the young man was still not aware of what was happening. Life as a Swindon Town player wasn't bad, but Niall just couldn't stay out of trouble. He even got involved in a fight with a woman, and soon got a bit of fame as a woman beater. Although Niall was getting into a lot of trouble, it didn't seem like his talent was affected. However, since the clubs could not manage his troubled personality, he was without a team once more. When Niall finally got another team, he had settled for a wage of £150 and a bonus of £3,000 for every game he played. This was at Blackpool FC, and if anyone had told Niles he would be in a team like this after playing in the Premier League, he would probably have punched that person. Playing for Blackpool FC was low, but it wasn't even the lowest the former Newcastle player went. He went as low as getting in a mouth-to-mouth contract just to play football. Sadly, he just couldn't make this work, as he kept getting into all sorts of trouble. Niall did not make anything out of his football career, but it is not too late to do something with his life. He currently seems interested in helping young players avoid the path he chose. If he can do this, he will be making a significant impact on his environment, and might finally be seen as a better man than Mario Balotelli, who walked a similar path.